here. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm Karen Ann Lusick McDonald, and if you're on my channel at Karen Ann Lusick McDonald, you'll know that I'm the 13th clan mother, and we've got a massive situation. So a friend of mine and several friends of mine are behind the scenes here at a place called Scotch Creek. It's in British Columbia, actually in the Okanagan, and actually in the Silex First Nations, okay, out here. And I'm reporting to you live because we've had so many different things happen. We've had entire towns like Lytton get flattened here. We've had nuclear releases, all sorts of stuff has been going on and accumulating over the last 2 years. We've seen what's been going on in the backgrounds above and beyond. So also what people are more aware of recently is the Hawaii incident here. And we can see that just, the trees are intact, but, the cars are flattened, the houses are flattened. We've got missing children. There are reports of actually the Marines being sent in right now. So the Marines have been deployed in, from what we're gathering. They've found hundreds and hundreds of people possibly dead and actually shot. And they're now looking for charging these people that were infiltrating into areas of FEMA. So if you go to Real Raw Food, no, that's our place in the Okanagan, realrawnews.com, you're going to do it. Now, on the phone here, I have a friend of mine who shall remain nameless at this point, but she is little behind the scenes. And I've talked to the shuswap coordinators already in the background and in the area. They've got more information for us and some idea how this is actually being taken over by actually the AI, because it's sounding like World War II places that they're coordinating at. They're using maybe Kelowna as a jump start, like a headquarters. And of course, we know there's a UN truck, and I've seen the tanks myself in front of Kelowna, but also at Vernon. So we know they've got an army base there and all the deployment in there that's been sitting there. And so one of the other things do remember is we've got the dragons there. That's kind of cute, the Vernon, but the army, the dragons are there. So what I'm going to have you do, and when I came out to the area to speak last summer, I met several of my friends, like, face to face. They're very well versed in the 5G, 6G, what's happening with the United Nations, the blue hats taking over. And they've been very active in their stance in protecting themselves, as protecting the nation, protecting their livelihood, the land, and standing on the ground in international law and treaty law, because they're quite well versed. When I spoke out there at these different groups last summer, and I remember it was quite ironic that the day I went in there to talk, there was actually 2,700 lightning strikes on the other side of the Lake of Salmon Arm when I was there. That was just an awe, because we knew that was really direct energy weapons that day. So without further ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been going on, and you can further see some of the stuff I'm putting on my networks. I'm putting out towards people. Chris Sky is now all over the internet, all over Telegram, Twitter. He's down in the States on the front line on Alex Jones shows and other things. And we're talking about this happening right now. And I'm sending it out to all my lines, because we see the contaminants, and what they're not talking about, what has happened is when they have these direct energy weapons, there's always usually releases of plasma, but radiation. And so these people could be potentially at risk for radiation and acute radiation illness that we see what happened at Fukushima or Chernobyl. So I'm going to have a friend of mine come on, and if you want to see some of the stuff, I'll be showing it to you. You can look at YouTube channels called Mr. Bandit 711, and you can look at the Scotch Creek fire, because that's what we're talking about. So Mr. Bandit 711 Lemieux. And without further ado, I'm going to put my friend on the line that they put an SOS out to me this morning. And I think, we all have to get out there and do this. So without further ado, I'll just say, you can disclose whatever you want. So you're live on the air right now. We've got people looking. Go right ahead and tell us what's going on behind the scenes, please.
Thank you so much, Clan Mother Karen, for engaging in this with us and doing everything that you can on your end to help us out, because this is a very, very dire and serious situation over here. It's not just some wildfires that they're professing or putting out on CBC. The media has absolutely dropped the ball on this. Mm-hmm. They are making us look and feel like we're a bunch of lowlifes over here while they destroy this entire area.
Right.
And not show actual film footage of what's going on. It really basically started from Adams Lake. It was a small fire. We all saw it. It could have been taken out immediately. Mm-hmm. Instead, they let it go for 3 days. And that, of course, made it spread. It went everywhere. And then people in the Adams Lake area tried everything to keep their homes, keep their property safe. They used sprinklers on the roofs, mm-hmm. and everything to up was to keep everything watered. It was really up to the fire management to do their part and get the water bombers in and do their. There was very little equipment. We weren't seeing hardly any choppers. We weren't seeing D9 bombers, water bombers. We weren't seeing anything. It was like, where's all the staff? And they were saying they have to bring in people from out of the country and all this sort of thing. So then, and then it just spread. And luckily, the homes were saved and the people are good over there. But it basically wiped down that whole mountain. So through that, then we got all these other fires starting up, and we don't know how they began because there was no storms. Karen, there was no lightning. It was just like, where did they start? Where is he starting from? And there were spot fires all over the place, and it was almost like it was strategically done. I don't want to go off the deep end on this with conspiracies, but it made you question what was really going on here, because there was mismanagement. I mean, we couldn't get any help anywhere. And then they were blaming the people down here once it came over the mountain and started coming down on this side. It was a wall right in front of us, just right down to us again. It was just an absolute living hell. They just set it up. They decided to do a prescribed burn with winds blowing, gusting. They decided they couldn't have done everything more purposefully wrong to help us. Everything was, they just wanted to, it was like they wanted to just wipe everything out. It was almost like a Maui situation where they wouldn't let us in. They wouldn't let people out in. They restricted travel. They restricted what we could access. They didn't want us to help one another. It was just incredibly sad that this is the leadership that we pay people to protect us, and they're not doing. They're doing the exact opposite.
Right.
So mainly a lot of military too, not military, but kind of a lockdown over here with various organizations walking the streets saying, oh, we're looking for bears, and they have long guns and they're walking down the middle of the streets and things like this. And one person said they saw somebody with a blue hat, a helmet type, to be UN. We're not sure. We're trying to get that picture because we did have it. And things like this. I mean, it was like Dukes of Hazzard over here, too. We have really critical thinkers around here, too, that are in the know, and they were trying to skirt outside what, they're not supposed to do, but yet we want to help each other type of thing.
Right.
So they would go running boats across at night from one side to the other. They're not impeding and disturbing any of the fire management. There virtually was none. So people were trying to assist each other with their animals, pets, older people, trying to get their medications, different things back and forth between this side of the North Shuswap to the South Shuswap side. And the cops, the RCMPs were catching people on the other side. And the reason came that they shouldn't be doing that. I mean, it was just insane, blocking people from trying to help each other. We have people that live here for decades who fought fires before. They know what they're doing, and they were helping one another. And it was just incredibly sad that with all the money that we pay our governments to try and help, and they keep professing that we have global boiling now and all this climate crisis. Well, where's all the equipment? They've had years to try and get the equipment together, and we all know that there's cloud seeding available. They could have made it rain, but they didn't. They just let things ride and let things burn. And right now, to this day, it's going to the western direction now in Magna Bay. I mean, these are very beautiful resort places where it's very rural, it's very land. It's very attractive to anybody that's wanting to buy good property, okay, and make a resort or what have you out of it.
Right.
And so is going on that they're really trying to just grab this land in one way or another. So there's that, and let's see, I'm just trying to think. So we've had people trying to help each other, people just staying low. I mean, right now we're in Scotch Creek, very small crowd here that just managed. I mean, it was by the grace of God that we're still here, honestly, because they there was another group that came in, which was really the fire management group, a wildfire group that came in from Lac Lejeune, and almost like they were outside of the box of what was supposed to be done over here. They came in, and honestly, if it wasn't for them, we would have been toast too, because they put a water curtain right across the bottom of the mountain. We're like not even a half a block, less than a third of a block from us. And they put this water equipment out, and it honestly saved us. It was shooting and they let it go for 8 hours, and it cooled the temperatures right down, and it saved all the trees and all the wildlife down in this area. If it wasn't for this group, we would have been toast. They came in, they even talked to us, and they said that we did everything right, because just in our house, we had sprinklers on the roof, we had our irrigation system, we had everything we had going to try to keep everything watered and so forth. And then they ran out of gas.
They ran out of gas?
They ran out of gas. So then one of our neighbors down here is really good with gear fitting and things like this. This is his occupation. Mm-hmm. He was able access to fill the tank and get more water and get things going still. And pardon me? Oh yeah, the police wouldn't let him in for 3 hours. Some people went out and they wouldn't let you come back in. They didn't want this equipment running. Then CBC says, oh, there's a bunch of looters and villains out here that stole the equipment and damaged and stole it and all this stuff. That's completely false. Mm-hmm. Completely false. They have pictures of the crew actually evacuated the area leaving the equipment behind, because the fire came right to the equipment and actually damaged some of it. And then after that, somebody has pictures of the equipment having been moved to another location. So nothing was done with the equipment that was wrong. There was no looters. There was nobody doing anything illegal like that. Mm-hmm. It was really doing the best they can to help one another here. We have so many heroes to speak about in this area that did everything they possibly could do to help the situation here. We got power yesterday, so that was a real bonus for us, because it's been 9 days or so without power and just trying to manage with getting water and everything. And we got people hooking up. I mean, the creative ones really came out of the woodwork and did their job to make things work.
Wow, I was going to say, what have you learned from this situation? Because you've got a vast background, and just to make it clear, we have met face to face, and we've known each other for a couple of years, have we not? I've been in that area, so I know what you're talking about firsthand. And when I've talked to the freedom people freedom, whatever you want to say, but people that are into the truth movement, trying to maintain the law of the land there, and doing what they can, they've actually challenged some of these blockades. And, I've heard, and it's quite well clear that they had, even the spikes down, so people's tires, and there are people that went for meetings and wouldn't let them back to their homes, and trying to get food to the other side, through the water, using their boats to the other side on the other side of Salmon Arm and stuff. They just don't want people going through there, even to try and get fuel, food, water, whatever supplies. So we do know that apparently that, so the story goes, is they're relocating people because they don't think it might be too safe, because of these renegades out there. But, obviously that's not true. And obviously you said you've seen armed people, with bluish colored helmets, which we know has always been associated with, the private military cabalistic, private military industrial complexes that are run by these nefarious organizations like the Monarchs or Mobius or Shaw or umbrella corporations, Delta. So what are you seeing there? And how have you made it through? What was your, methodology for doing this? Because my concern is that you've got people in there too, and potential radiation. We know these aren't fires. We know these are direct energy weapons. Just to let you know, when the West Kelowna fire went down, I actually happened to have been on the phone with someone in East Kelowna at the time that evening, and they happened to have been watching outside, and they saw direct energy weapon plasma beams come from the airspace and hit over West Kelowna and ignite it. It was an hour and a half later, while I was still on the call to these individuals, that the emergency alert was set out. So I actually was on the phone while this thing went down. And we know apparently it jumps across lakes, it jumps across to, East Kelowna, goes to Glenmore, and now it's going up to Lake Country and, that type of area, Coldstream. So now you guys are in their way. So when I looked at it from my strategic point of view, when I came into this area 2 years ago and assisted on the BC radiation and spoke with Judge Alfred Weber and spoke with the tribunal judges and war crimes and anyone I could get to listen, from like BC Search and Rescue to the RCMP, to the Army, to the military, to the Space Force, all these different people I contacted, because I did a medical evac of people that were at this direct energy weapon, which blew up, and it was basically at a Chernobyl level, the radiation that we measured at the time it went off. And of course, now it will be cool because I have, people at health centers out in Lavington, Lumbee area monitoring the radiation as close as we can get to you. Even though it's dropped down, we know that it would have been at extremely high levels last week when you said this was going. So there was a fallout. The people that were there started losing their hair within weeks. They started bleeding out their rectums. The animals were bleeding out their paws. We saw the blackened evidence and the incineration, of the vegetation, some of it. And again, in the back areas that they tried to cover up. And usually this is what we've seen, because we had this smoke where I am in the Kootenays right now. We had the smoke here, not only from Kelowna, but all the stuff coming down. Now we got radioactive ash all over the ground, which is going to affect the gardens from here on in. All the fruit, the vegetation, the water, the wildlife. And how are you feeling? Like, what can you give us here? Like, what has made it through, and what do you want people to know? How can we help from our end?
Well, communication, and everybody needs to really wake up. They really have to understand that the main media is actually, whatever they're saying, think the opposite, because they are not our friends. They are trying to build up a story, a narrative that enforces whatever plan, agenda, whatever they're trying to project upon us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just one couple of things. We had within our community, just up the hill over here, some people didn't want to go out the back way because they have a blockade and roadblocks everywhere. You can't get out of here.
Right.
And there's no way into this area. And so they went up the hill to get some water. They came back down. There's a spike belt.
Right. I heard about those spike belts that, again, they were going to make sure no one went in or out.
It's like they are our worst enemy. They were doing nothing to help us at all. And the fire department we've seen vehicles going around and around. They're drinking Tim Hortons coffee and doing nothing. We had no air support, none. But after everything, we're seeing drones, we're seeing choppers, we're seeing everything. And they said they couldn't do any flights because of the smoke conditions, that it was too thick of smoke. But yet, the other day it was the same conditions, and they're all over here, almost surveilling how things have ended up after they've destructed the whole place.
Well,
I mean, it's just incredible. Now, another person that's involved is from Rusty Restorers, is Avery. And Avery tried to do a couple of moves to try and save his home and things like that. And he had an encounter with the RCMP. They were on the road, almost like them trying to hit each other off the road. I mean, there's so many stories out of this. But they jail, his son in jail, but now they're out. But I mean, there's a lot of heroes that are trying, but we're working against a system that is not benefiting us at all. They're actually trying to stop us from saving ourselves. So in terms of what we've done to help one another, it really was all about water and God. We had some rain after a few days of pure hell over here. The rain came down, and surprisingly, where we are, just maybe not even a half a mile away, is a church right down on the same street as us. It was saved. And there was a lot of people just through the power of prayer, whoever your God is, source, creator, we were just on our hands and knees praying for our life. And it was like, I mean, there was a vortex of wind. The wind was just howling in here.
Right.
And it was red like hell. It was just red, and every embers everywhere, just burning a wall down the whole mountainside. It was just like we were in literal hell here. And how we were spared, all we can do is just thank our God that our God saved us, because I just don't even understand it right. I'm still processing it all. It's just incredible.
Now, one of the things I'm just going to ask you here is there's some things that tied into Maui, tied into Lytton and stuff like that. We've heard some stuff too, and people are even talking about some of the places that didn't get burnt had, let's say, for example, blue roofs, because when we look at Project Bluebeam or some of the lasers that can ignite these areas, is some of the actual places, if they had the dark blue, the umbrellas and stuff, it didn't seem to go up because lasers will not burn actually that color. The other thing too is that I could smell the chemical in the air, and as soon as we got in, I said, just wait, this is going to be just like Lytton, just like, Fort Mac. It's going to be just like all these things which we've seen before, and what we had experienced in Hope and Lytton when I did the medical evac out there. That's really well documented at newsinsideout.com. We spent months reporting this when we first started seeing this. Like, and I witnessed this firsthand doing the medical evac through those areas in the Okanagan. Now, we notice a smell. I can smell it here. Now, I'm just wondering if we could go through your census, and because I've got, you on video and I'm playing some of these things about Scotch Creek in the background as we're talking, can you describe this from census going in there? What are you seeing, smelling, tasting? What side effects have you noticed over the last week? Because there's got to be horrendous side effects, just like we saw with the people in Fort McMurray and in the Lytton behind the scenes, because they will always put a rain after to cool it down because of the excess radiation on operations.
I know. We were actually wearing like hazmat outfits, bandanas, masks, goggles, everything we could to protect ourselves. That was key to especially the initial part of this when it was just a complete firing inferno over here.
Mm-hmm.
We can sort of relax on some of that. And a lot of us, I mean, we've got a lot of really awake people. They protect their skulls. They're using flip phones. They're not using smart devices. They're doing everything to try to avoid being surveilled and things like that, doing whatever they can. We have no internet here.
Mm-hmm.
We hadn't had mentioned. We just finally got BC Hydro, so that's a good sign. But I am unable to. I'm an electrosensitive person.
I know. We both are. And you probably got your Q-Link and your wearable neck air tamer on, I see too, right?
Yes, yeah, that too, everything. And you have we're so kind to give treatments too. When we saw you that one time, really helped with the bio resonance type the genius that you had there.
Correct.
So that sort of thing. But on the whole, most people eat very well here. They live a good quality life in terms of what they eat and drink, pure water and things like that.
Now, but what about the smart meters and stuff like that? That's my concern. So sometimes, like, a lot of us have got the Faraday cages on. We've got EMF protecting right over the smart meters. I'm in contact. I just did a show recently, and I really appreciate your putting your information and mine out, as you kindly do all the time. I met with Nancy Hopkins from the U.S. Army Intelligence Division, which I will send this forward to as well. And in there, what happens is that we were talking about the use of shungite and shungite water, especially because of the help it can be with radioactivity. And we're doing some new techniques. So I will put this out to our Genius Insight Health App community. And I will be in touch with Ryan Williams, the developer of all this technology, because we have developed a lot of libraries and panels myself, not only to do with the radiation, but for contamination and chemical spills, not just like what we saw in Ohio, but I started developing these quite early as I saw what was going on in Saskatoon and definitely in the Okanagan over the last 2 years. So can you talk to me a little bit, were some of these houses that were spared, could you see sort of patterns or, Yeah,
very interesting that most of the bird properties were kind of just lands and sort of not the best quality of things, but the people that their homes remain are sort of upper end homes. Those areas were kind of untouched. But the other areas were burnt to a crisp. Mobile home parks, things like that, sort of older places, those were taken out. Unless the people there, like there's some groups here that have been here for decades and decades, and they knew how to fight these fires, even in the worst areas up in the hills here. They saved their homes. They're like log cabins, older type of homes from way back.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting, I'm glad you brought that up because it's very interesting how which homes were saved and which ones weren't. And we really haven't been able to go out and investigate because we're on lockdown still. The fire hall was gone pretty much immediately. That fire suppression team that came, they brought a big crew out, and they were actually by the Quay Lodge, the little shuswap band area.
Yeah.
And they basically sat there and watched it come right to them. It burned it right down. They did nothing. So that bunch, I think, they were here, and I don't know. We got to all follow the money too. Who's benefiting from this? Because they brought all this equipment and they didn't use it, and it burnt down. And if it wasn't for us, and that one night where I told you the equipment, the fire came right down, and they were suggesting that people were stealing the equipment and all. That was not at all what happened. But the people that were manning that equipment evacuated. They left it for us.
Wow. Now, have you been what are you doing to protect? We talked just a little bit. I just want to make sure that you're concerned. We know that these things really acidify this, not only the stress, but the actual chemicals that you're inhaling here. on there. So we've just discussed it. I don't know if you did get that email because maybe stuff hasn't gone through that I've been sending back to you, but things like neti pots and really getting the saline, because it's going to be through aerosol contamination, and having those air tamers and having lots of essential oils taken internally and externally. So how is the state of your land and your sacred kin domain there? Could you talk a little bit about right where you live? What's happened there?
Well, right now, as I say, we're just all trying to get the communicate with as many people as we can to get this out, because the news is not reporting it accurately. I mean, they're completely off the wall with what they're coming up with. And so we're just trying to get out the news to as many people as we can to tell them what really went on, and that the CSRD, the Columbian Shuswap Regional District, was absolutely useless. Our area F guy, Jay Simpson, shame on you. Shame on you. He should have been listening to the wishes of the people and helping the people. We were not getting any profession. These firefighters did not do what they're supposed to do. In fact, what I mentioned earlier, they were pretty much non-existent. And they weren't allowed, they can only go 50 feet in, the locals over here. And when they have no fire hall, that pretty much tells you how good that is. The fire hall went first. You know, and these guys are driving around, and we were out. I mean, people were out every night looking for spot fires, embers, things, trying to put it out. We were doing everything to just keep things, you know, do what we can to save this area.
What have you noticed anything to do with the change in the wildlife? Or I want to talk also not only that, because I've seen a couple things with some deer just in the background. It was funny because someone actually was going along the highway that I've seen here, and all of a sudden you see little smoldering fires all over. Well, that's not how our fire spreads. That's actually like fallout from these different areas that we can see here. So I was just like, oh my God, oops, what's going on in here? And you know, what is the actual effects that you've noticed yourself here?
Of the embers and that sort of thing, or?
Correct. Yeah. What have you noticed yourself, and anything like smoke inhalation damage, like what you've noticed even physically here?
There's only 40 people that stayed back here and fought this fire on that Friday night. Everybody evacuated.
Right.
We stayed. No, everybody was gone. I think I was the only female left in this area right here. I was just not going to go, because this is our life and everything. To us, this is sacred land. We've done everything. This is our life right here. We did everything to try and help save it. But a lot of people did leave, and then they did come back. Some came back about the next day, women and that too. And oh man, we have some really good warrior women here too when they came back. BT's, a local food area. I mean, they've been just astronomically good. Sharon Tews and her husband Chippy there. They've done some great work getting the food. I mean, we've had to bypass the law and do things just to save ourselves. They're actually impeding our way to survive here. So they've been very helpful. They've been trying to get the message out. They have their data phones, so they're able to actually deliver more than what we can on our little flip phone here. But we're doing. So those people were there. The home hardware store, the lumber yard went. The building stayed. Most of the building, the library, the Century 21 building are gone, and so there's very few of the core of Scotch Creek. The Super Value store is here, which is great. They offered to help with a little bit of food, but we can't access it because they won't let us leave we can't leave our property.
So what are they telling you if you leave your land and just off your grass or your yard? They're going
to charge us for that.
And what do they want to charge you with, have they said?
Well, because we're not obeying their orders, right?
So again, this is not the law. I mean, as you know, these are just mandates and suggestions and rules and regulations that are not the law, and they're violating our international laws and treaties. Which brings me to, have you actually had face-to-face contact with these people? What is their excuse? I mean, obviously you've gone up to question them and seen them.
You know, some of them will not tell you their name and their badge.
They will not identify themselves. Have any identified themselves? Given you anything?
Head down. They dip their head down and just point to their chest, and there's nothing there. You know, and then but the other people, like the RCs and that sort of, they're more good that way. But we really haven't seen many RCMP.
Really?
It's like It was in the first few days them just assessing how much damage they did. And that's basically it. We haven't seen nothing for quite a while. No traffic here for quite a while of any of these so-called establishment people.
So aside from like threatening, has anyone actually challenged them and gone off their land? Because you said they're actually patrolling with armed guns right now.
Not now. They were
visible to you to make you feel threatened.
Yeah, that's what it was. And they said, oh no, it's just because the bears are coming down. What has happened too since the Adams Lake situation? A lot of the wildlife has come down this area, and they're injured, they're burned, bears and everything. It's just horrific what's going on with the wildlife. But the ones that remained over here, I mean, they're good, the deer and things like that. We really care for all our animals here too. But you know, and it's what else was I going to say? I'm sorry, I'm just losing my mind here.
No, you're not. I mean, this is like, MASH unit. This is like someone behind the war lines, because you know what? We're all war lines, but let's just remember that you're not a prisoner of war, and you're not an inhabitant, and you're not part of their public or private property. So do remember, I mean, you have called me as a clan mother, and so for that, I'm putting it out to the international forces to take a look at, because we're getting reports, whether you realize or not, what happened at Maui is that, as I said, the Marines were called in on special operations detachments, and they found that there was pre-planning, there was infiltration, and the actual people in these areas of FEMA, or whether you want to call it the UN, or whoever's in these blue hats or private corporations, military industrial complexes, were actually to the point I've been getting reports that there were people shot, and we've got like possibly 1,000 and some children missing. So are there any children in this area as well that you're aware of that is in that group of you, 40, 50 behind the lines?
From that point, I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, and that's a huge thing to consider. But at this point, we have no information on that. But what I can tell you, this is just the latest sort of tidbit here. We're building a fire road today to just sort of separate anything. If there's any more fires coming down here, that we have some kind of a buffer zone.
Right.
So that the fire trucks, because they've now agreed, there's different people working in the different jurisdictions. Like there's a Solista Fire Department, and then there's a Scotch Creek Fire Department.
Okay.
One of the chiefs goes by the book. The other guy lives here and really wants the best for everybody here. So he's sort of doing his, listening to everybody, and we're all kind of helping each other. And so these are the ones that are really they're really extending themselves, because they're not allowed to do certain things, but they're going to actually try and get the trucks in the backer areas, because they weren't supposed to access some of this area. Mm-hmm. But now we need them, and it's an emergency situation. So they've decided that they're going to do this fire road today, and so that the citizens and people can sort of drive around this area too.
Right. That will give you some more mobility. I hear something. There's something in the background. I hear this other friend of mine. You've got something to add. Something's coming across too. Something else you want to add?
From your side or over here?
Over on your side. Anything else? I just thought I heard someone say, "Go and say something."
Well, this is George. George wants to speak to you too.
All right. Thank you. Nice to meet you, George. How are you?
Good.
This is Clan Mother Karen and Lucic McDonald. So I'm appreciating what you guys are doing back there behind the lines and holding the land and everything else, and your deep insight and your understanding and peacekeeping at this time. So may I thank you formally.
I have to thank. I'll just fill in a few spots. Just want to deal with the fire at hand.
All right.
The citizens are using their own equipment today to build a fire road.
Correct.
We just walked the road, and the fire department here in Scotch Creek needs that road, because we got embers burning all over in the back areas, and it was supposed to get hot, and we don't need any more bursts at night. Last night there was a burst at the top of the mountain with a huge glow, and we're just worried which way the winds blow. What happened last Friday night? 10 o'clock, the fire suppression from Blockades pulled in, and they set up 1.5 miles of 12-inch line with pumpers. and they are from Sylvan Lake Depression Company. That's what saves Scotch Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is at 10 o'clock they pulled out because they said, you know what, we don't think we can hold the line. 40 or 50 citizens, we don't know how many were left in the community. And everybody was doing their part on their own properties. We have sprinklers and everybody set up. There's people also that biked downtown. They were fanning flames with shirts off their back and that because everybody vacated.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no fire. There was no police. There was no firemen. Nothing. I just want to stress, all the pictures you're seeing came from 1 week ago Saturday morning when the citizens drove around because everybody's got to come from Salmon Arm or Kamloops. So by the time authority came in, all the pictures have gone out. And that same day, we've seen a group from Vancouver Island fire departments come in and they could help with the spot fires, but they were gone. All we've seen this week, the Scotch Creek Fire Department,
right,
drive the neighborhood. We've seen all these, never seen any RCMP. It's nothing but unmarked vehicles, men with blue hats and everything, just a constant stream. All of us are rolling, a lot of us are rolling on our bikes and they keep threatening us, go back to your place or else leave the community all week. So in our community, because it's really tight,
mm-hmm.
The phones didn't go down. We're in touch by text,
correct,
cell.
Meeting each other,
Meeting each
in
other.
the dark, meeting each other and trying to just do things covertly.
Legally and lawfully. We're not on the roadways. They're making it sound like we're a bunch of thugs. We've got people.
They're all retired gardeners.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
We didn't see any air support. Last Friday, when that wall of flame came down the mountain, it was
right.
a wall of smoke a mile high, and on the left side was clear sky. And we haven't seen no fire bombers last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We haven't seen nothing. We were vacated. They wanted to burn us out. Not even a question. We got a call late in the evening. It was about 10 o'clock. You gotta leave. We got the boat over at Captain's Village Marina. You got 5 minutes. You're in a vortex. They're going to burn it down. We said, we know. It was like hell on earth. We had our trucks packed, our dogs in our vehicles, everything. Liv went on the other side crying. King Lily went on the other side crying over there.
Right.
And anyways, it was just crazy. We don't even want to bring that memory back. We made it through the night. It was hell on earth. The fire's behind over there. Fires on the side.
You can hear big choppers right now.
You can hear big choppers going. We haven't heard nothing for 7 days. And what pisses us off is today it's choppers.
Yeah, we
last night
choppers.
So anyways, all we could see is the glow of the Scotch Creek Fire Hall, the home hardware yard, eco treats. The library burn up. The
Mm-hmm.
Century 21 over there. We didn't know what burned up. It was finally Thursday. We haven't left our square. Our
Right.
square, our property, and our right to be on it. We
Absolutely.
didn't leave any area, and we'd like to tell the world, you know what? We have a God-given right to sit on our land and like Lily here, ground herself to the ground.
That's what we did. You were asking Clan Mother. That was a big thing, grounding.
Right. Yeah. So make sure, this is the thing too, that, like I said, as I've seen before in the other areas, especially having like gone through the Hope Lytton one, when people, and this is one of the first things I noticed because I know part of the operations that they were doing, if you took a plumb line and you went right from, and again, all the stuff coming up through the US border, but when you went through Manning Park and you went through Silver Creek and through Lytton and then going up and through Adams Lake, Kamloops into there, you're seeing this stuff going all the way through up there, right up into almost, the BC, Alaska, the Northwest Territories. If you start looking at the plumb lines and looking at the thermals, you'll see that these are directly pre-planned operations. We are hearing some stuff too that while they're, you want to say whatever, the UN and blue hats are up there on top, we've also got Marines and specialized forces underground trying to take out these nuclear facilities, bio labs, trafficking devices for adrenochrome, everything else, child trafficking as well. So we're watching this with the thing. And just to let you know, Chris Sky, myself, other people have got it all over the networks right now. We've got a huge international thing. I forwarded it to a JAG, Judge Advocate General, Navy lawyer, already. The veterans, they're getting it through on their line, and to different people like Pascal Najati. So there's a lot of people watching this right now. So the eye is on you literally as we're talking. I've got, Google Earth over Scotch Creek and looking at what's happening up there. I've been talking to people in Salmon Arm, and again today, talking to people in Sorrento, and those different groups that you do have up there, because I did have the pleasure to be up there speaking to a lot of your groups about this last summer. And so going up into there, so I'm quite well aware of the land and where you guys are up there. And again, there was some talk with Janice and stuff too that we looked at, that it's almost like an AI simulation as well, because some of the headquarters they're trying to infiltrate is in like literally Kane Strait and Dieppe and stuff like this, like actually connected to the World War II. It's like a relive thing, like, what are they doing? And we know that this is part of an AI simulation as well. But if there's anything else I can do for you, let me know. Right now, just to let you know, Olivia, I've got actually our Genius Biofeedback actually on you right now as we're talking. And that particular biofeedback is not going to everyone around you, is getting a energetic thing. So I'd suggest getting some shungite very quickly, whatever you've got, or shungite water, using chaga water, using the essential oils, getting baking soda water, because these contaminants that you guys have been irradiated and contaminated is no different than what happened in Ohio. And so we need to keep, neti pots and doing these type of things, and making sure you're taking these kind of decontamination radiation baths, any kind of things like potassium iodine. So that's where I'm coming in from this end. But right now we literally have got the Genius Biofeedback on you. I'm looking at your aura. We're maintaining it. I will be giving these out to people like Dr. Robert O. Young and everyone that's involved, because they don't realize this is part of the COVID, the takedown of the covert operations for identifying inhospitable demonics and stuff. So we do have this on. So everyone, even within your proximity, is being within your biosphere, your auric field, whatever you want to say there, we've got you, and we're right on you right now. So we want to thank you.
I wanted to also add that just before the internet went out, I did get your emails, and I shared it with everybody on how to clean the sciences with the neti pot and your different formulas on how to do that. And I thank you so much for that information. I also wanted to add about the possibility of the dew weaponry, because we've heard it from a number of people that it's just not natural what was going on here. We had no lightning. There was no storm after the in Adams Lake. People said that the way the situations of these spot fires was almost symmetrical, like they were lined up with one another, and it was just not, it did not look normal. So there's that, and about the steel, I guess the steel and metal is kind of that's something we read before with the Maui incident.
Correct.
That it's kind of metal or steel that actually made things more intensely hot.
Correct.
And it necessarily, the trees weren't quite affected, and wood, it was mainly metal, a lot of metal. Like we have metal buildings, the eco treats over here is completely pulverized.
Right.
We have people who slipped out on bikes just to go sort of assess what was burnt and what wasn't. So this is all from other people saying what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
With you, but we will text all what we text to Chris Sky. We're going to send that to you with all the pictures, everything that we have available that was shared amongst the community here in Scotch Creek. So you'll have some kind of visuals there to take a look at. Other than that, it just seemed very. It was so intensely hot. I know fires are hot, of course, but there was just something different. There was really something. There was more to this story, and we feel that there's an operation at hand. You could call it Operation Shuswap. I don't know, because it just seems like something this was planned, and they did everything they could to do everything to not serve the people. It was like they did everything wrong.
Right.
Instead of doing everything right to help us, it was like they purposefully did everything backwards wrong.
Right, right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to let you listen for 1 minute here. I'm going to play, and again, this is part of our national security, and Chris is part of my nation, just to let you know as well. And I've had the pleasure to be with him. But I want you to listen to what Chris is saying. So just so you know, this is going out. He's been on Alex Jones and Mike Adams, and this is going out right now. So just take a listen for a minute. There you go. So you have it directly. We are getting it out. So if it gives you any kind of consolation, we're really trying to help and get it out. So we have it on all the networks, and I'm sure with the stuff that's been forwarded to Chris, we'll do what we can. So
I got to interrupt both of you guys. So the Chris guy has a picture of Canada Passport 1. We have the picture of that, but the blue UN troops, that is not Scotch Creek. We just know that are they in Canada? They're not in Scotch Creek. We just have to clarify that. It's those blue hats 1. That
Canada Task Force.
Canada Task Force 1.
Correct.
That's a picture of them in the shoe shop.
Yeah, we have that as well, and that's something that we've been putting up here as well. So I'm putting that up on the screen for people to see as well. So again, we know it's not got the UN designation, but they definitely have got, I mean, it's a similarity. There's no question. Of course, we also know that, the people that had blue roofs were not affected and their houses didn't burn. So I was getting calls saying, you better start painting your roof blue real quick. But again, there could be something to the direct energy weapons and lasers repelling on their blue hats. Okay. So take a hint with blue bandanas or something too. Or blue tarps going over things that you need to protect. I mean, a lot of us have those cheaper blue tarps, right? So that might be something that needs to be saved. Or I noticed the pictures that you guys have in the live streams that there were a lot of people that were actually huddled under some of those different canopy tents, in there. So that might be something, is to make sure where you've got people gathered is, there's something in there. So it's pretty amazing here. So a lot of people are in my chat room right now. They're chatting it up and they're going, oh my gosh, this is bizarre here. So
it's so many communities here. It's just not Scotch Creek. Scotch Creek is sort of the hub, the main little area where you get your supplies.
Correct.
But there's Lisa, there's Magna Bay, there's the Lee Creek on the other side there, and you go down the line, and it's just like they're going after each place one by one. There's no reason why they haven't contained this fire.
We're freaked out because we see the media thing, Karen, a couple weeks ago, bringing in fires over at the field there, and who are there? We're seeing these guys on the street. Everybody's wearing a blue hat. The guys, 11:30 at night, our neighbor catches lawn guns with blue hats.
They are around, but we're not sure exactly who they are. But we're thinking, Jay Simpson, our Area F guy, he doesn't take email. He doesn't listen to us. He says he has 5 phones on him all the time. And we swear he's like, somebody's paying this guy. I don't understand why he's not helping us more. He's actually deterring everything here.
Right, right. Okay, so is there anything I can do from my end? Because I mean, that's one of the things as well too. I mean, we have this on you. We've got our thing for decontamination. And I'm glad some of those YouTubes that I put out, because it was at my channel at Karen Ann Lusick McDonald. I think that was so important. If we don't nip this in the bud and start getting some information to people to help them, they just don't know what to do. And that was something that, when I was talking with Dr. Robert O. Young, over this, especially with, we saw the contamination spills and slowly building up to this, like what we saw in there. So I think that's really, really important to see if there's anything else that, we can do to help you on this end. But I really suggest you get those going, because that's some of the things that needs to be doing. I call it my fifth chakra nasal neti pots, sort of thing here. But prepping and doing steam, I think that's really important. I found is that even if you boil up water and herbs and steam like a smudge and stand over it, like cleaning those areas, in there. And that's something that I saw, as weird as it is, it goes back to when I had to look at doing some of those things for, I don't know if you remember the Standing Rock issue, but that's one of the ones I started noticing where we started helping with this. And I'll bring it, as well to David Wolf and other people's attention that were, always helpful in this kind of thing. So, and bring it to the whole quantum and holistic naturopath community. I know we've got a great thing in the Okanagan there. So ironic that I was going to probably start looking to moving towards your area here shortly. So there you go.
When you were around this area too, you taught so many people great things with essential oils, and you clean your root chakra and things like that. Just really valuable information, and they're so basic that people, it should be their go-to thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And mention that people have put other people down for prepping. We are so happy we prepped, because that really saved us. We had water stored and we had essentials stored and things like that. Through actually from the beginning of COVID and all of that too, you just wanted to make sure you had enough supplies. So I would recommend to everybody, because if this can happen to us and all these communities down along the way, it can happen to you. This is just another realization that we are being run by some very shady characters, and they aren't out to help us. We got to help each other. And that's the key, is really be in your communities, do everything you can to help one food and supplies and things like this, and do your prepping, get prepared, put your sprinklers on your roof, and do things like, because it really, really, at the end of it, it saved us. It really saved us.
Because Olivia's prepping, and because her neighbors down the street who has a bobcat, right now, the community, the firemen will go behind the properties if we build the citizens. We're not allowed to leave their property, but we're using our bobcats to build a fire road right now, and they'll drive down the fire road to protect our property.
We're using our own resources.
What the jurisdiction shit? We got people's lives and things. We have a neighbor right now needs emergency medical within 3 days. He says, he can get it. He can get it if he leaves. He has a right to be on his home right now. We have these blue hat dudes driving in and out every night because they got to go salmon harbor or Kamloops, and they got to come back every day. So that road is open back and forth, and they're stopping medical supplies. This is a humanitarian crisis.
Yeah, they stopped the food trucks. They stopped the gas from coming in. I mean, what for? But yet they're all coming in, like these big convoys of themselves coming in. We're not allowed to do anything.
I'm not going to name people, but we've been told it was the RCMP at Highway 1 that stopped the gas from coming in. We don't know if it's the blue hat people, because the blue hat people, we don't know who the hell they are running around the street. They're all running around in dirty vehicles around.
Yeah, you can't even, this is the other thing. They scrambled our phones yesterday. There was static. We couldn't get through on our phones.
The planes were flying.
They had drones going over here. I don't know what they were up to, but when George was trying to send out messages by text, all there was static. And
I'm not surprised in there. I've seen that many times where, I had an incident to dealing with the RCMP and stealing and doing acts of war when I was in Kelowna with some of my different belongings. And again, the minute I went up there, my entire phone was blacked out, scrambled, and drained everything immediately just with being in their proximity. So we know these are not exactly there. This is what you get into the cloning the super soldier project and some of these cybernetic soldiers. So again, a lot of these are non-human as well, which presents a problem that you're dealing with. These things are, like clone cyborg, like RoboCop. So, I mean, that becomes an issue. I did see as well that we saw on that YouTube that did put out 2 YouTubes from your area in the last couple days. And it showed very clearly that the highways were totally open going up towards the Kamloops area. So those are some of the things as well too. So, people they need to get a grip and realize that this is happening. But I think that's a very important point that you made, that if it's happening in your area, it's going to happen everywhere else. And yeah, so is it the UN or another private army or just using metallic blue? But let's remember that blue is being coordinated. That color is being coordinated to the roofs in Hawaii and in Maui that didn't burn. So again, there's something about being protected in there, and we can use all that type of thing. So like I said, that might become part of it. So
we both of us know there was blue guys like blue wear, blue hats.
Yeah,
they're getting very clear. We did not see any UN
I'm not sure who these
we had a UN. Is there a UN in the area? We don't know. Is there UN in Canada? No, but we don't know who these dudes are.
Well, I will tell you from my experience, and I have been in the Kelowna, in front of the Army base and in front of the Vernon base, which is one of the closest bases to you. The Dragons are based out of there, and they have white UN Army trucks, like a tanker sitting right in front on the base. So if that's not a more clear indication, and we've known that's what happened in different areas too, where the UN has come in, they consider it to be like they think they're sovereign private little thing, and they're inescapable, but they're not. And so I will be talking about some of this to do with Pascal Najati and other people in regards to the law of war manuals, Title 10, and the executive orders that Trump has put in, because we're now going to put out, and I have put out an alert, not only in the SOS, but putting this out, that this is an act of war upon our nations and upon our peoples there. And I will be filing this in for an international point of view as they're listening to me. Again, law is oral. It's not, and it's all verbal. It's not in writ. So this is going out. And this is what I'm saying is I am going to be formally requesting that the special forces come in and look after this area.
I just thank you so much. Thank you. I just also wanted to mention that they, whether you believe in stratosphere aerosol management or geoengineering, what sort of things like that, we have seen so much of that, so much of it. It was so dry, tinder dry, and then we have this create a very flammable situation that it was just so purposeful. You could see that these particular planes, they were not on commercial roofs. You were seeing them all over the place.
Right.
And this amped it up, just before, they do it all the time. But with Adams Lake, it was really just going out of control with this. It was like tic-tac-toe all over the sky with the lines and just creating that, that gray mist everywhere in the sky, that overcast film.
Right. Yeah, and it's the biofilm that I was warned about in here, and staying indoors, doing the hydroponics, getting the seeds, because again, everything on the ground and all the trees, berries, everything from here on in will be deemed radioactive for the first 10 feet. So, this has got farther repercussions for just what happened. And we're seeing what's happened, in those years, even following like Hope Blit and stuff that I saw even in the Saskatoon areas, that, these mysterious fires were again occurring. We're seeing it everywhere. We know it's a agenda, but there are many of us that are going to be in these safer spots. And again, it will be communities like yourselves that are showing people the strength and determination how to pull through this. So I think that's really, really important, because that's what's going to make everything happen and go through here. So we're seeing extra things. Just to let you know, in Louisiana there are fires. And again, these are not fires. They're predetermined direct energy weapons. They're pre-planned aerosol attacks, and it's all over the place. So I just wanted to...
One more thing. We had like a 30-car rescue group that came in from Sorrento. They wanted to come in
Yeah.
And they wanted to help us bring food and the basic amenities to the people. They were doing no harm. They just wanted to help us out. Well, they were treated like they're a bunch of radicals that came here. And that was projected by CBC once again, saying that these people are impeding the work of the forest management, which is completely off base. They were coming out, we all know all these people, and they were coming to try and help us, and they got turned away again. And then people on boats trying to help one another across the lake. I mean, it's just incredible how we're trying to skirt around what these evildoers are doing to us just to maintain survival here. We're having to be very creative thinkers around here.
Oh, absolutely. Now, one of the things that I was just, going through what we went through at Lytton and stuff like that, we could see some skin irritation, skin burns, just like you would see with chemo radiation burns and acute or mild radiation illness. So that would be one of the things we found too is aloe vera. So if you can get your hands on that, drinking aloe vera was huge in here. And so we do want to have you on the alert because the inflammation stuff, kind of scarring, can affect. We can start seeing bleeding, internal and external, because this stuff will go right through into the bone. So hair loss, anything that you're noticing, please let us know. And this is something that people need to be aware of. This is like taking like 200 chemo and radiation type of thing. So we've all reported things previously into there, but I'll make sure all the different appropriate people know. Have you noticed any kind of skin burning or anything along like that, or anything that you noticed immediately or that type of thing?
Yeah, our skin is burning. We're kind of all red. Everybody's all red.
Yeah, like a nice and flushed, like slightly flushed, like acute radiation illness.
Yeah, and also, this is kind of personal, but also when I go to the bathroom and that there is blood, a lot of blood.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we had with Andra and all the stuff on the coordinated radiation and injection attacks that we saw going back to October and November of 2021 when I did the medical evac. Sometimes you can see the actual burn things. That's what I happen to have in there. So again, we want to be very careful because we start seeing not only vaginal bleeding, but rectal bleeding or blood in the urine. So you have to be, and I know we don't need to keep this as a personal thing. We need to be very, very aware of what you guys have been through here. It's just been another attack that we saw further in there. So I'm going to put it forward in there, and they're listening right now, and look for the nanotechnology. So again, you want to be very, very even more careful because of the increased radiation in the area. Anyone that has been PCR'd or vaxxed will be even more, have that ability to transmit in there. One of the other things I'm just questioning too, did you see anyone, as like one of my friends saw, like right before an hour and a half before the Kelowna alert went out, did you see anything, like any beams that came down or weapons or anything, report anything within the first couple hours before that happened?
Yes. August 13th, 8:30 p.m., right on the nose, we saw a low-flying plane that shouldn't have been at that altitude come right over this mountainside, and we both saw there was no sunshine, no reflection off of anything, but we both saw two flashes off the nose of a plane. But it was not where you typically seen a beam going straight to the ground. We did not see that, but we've seen two flashes. It was a flash. It was like huge LED light. And then nothing, and about 3 seconds later, another one, and that was it. Then the next morning we come up, and there's a huge fire where we saw it.
Again, that's the kind of things that we need documented and getting out. So that's why we're talking about this. We're using this as actually, and they will be listening to it as evidence here. And like I said, there are people like Kerry Cassidy following these direct energy weapons because we know a lot of these were bases to Space Force and headquarters also for servers to do with some of the Space Force. So we see this as obviously multi military wars, fractions and alliances, and a war between themselves with the people being caught as fodder. So we just wanted to get some of those effects. So if you can get back to me, at least we have an open line at this point. You've got my direct line as well, obviously. So if there's anything else we can get to you, mine will go out. I'll feed it into Chris. We'll feed it into all those lines and see what we can get for you.
Yeah, no, you have no idea what a relief it is just to speak to you, because we've been trying so hard to get this information out. And, people around us, they're all trying their best as well. between, the yesterday and the static, that really threw us for a loop too, because we have hardly any resources to use,
Right.
So we're doing what we can from here, and just to hear your voice and your understanding of this is just, it really is comforting to us at this moment, because, it's been pretty rough. Like, we're just losing our minds here and just trying to stay calm, but it really is hard when you're seeing the devastation, hearing it word verbatim from people telling you, well, this is what happened. People we know.
We haven't been off our square.
We haven't been off our square. All we're doing is hearing stuff from other people telling us what's going on.
Yeah.
And on our text phone, and people sending the pictures that they can send. But it's limited because they won't allow us to move within just a block of our community. They won't let us.
The only thing is the support who's left here right there. There's nobody here. It's just a morgue here. There's the fire department drives around on one wire. We're allowed to build a road over here. So the jurisdiction thing, we the citizens have to build a road so the fire company, which has a jurisdiction, to drive on the road behind the property in case there's a spot fire, because they will only service off of there. Yes, we can call 911 today and they'll help us out. But that is our community group. Outside of that,
correct.
if we go to Scotch Creek, we can drive out of Scotch Creek today, but we are not allowed back in.
Yeah, that was the issue. I know some people left for meetings, as I said, to going into Blonde Bay and stuff like that, and they weren't allowed back, right? So, but I am in contact with them. I'm in contact with some of your truther groups and Janice, and to the groups that I spoke. While I was out there visiting all you guys as well. So, our hearts and our prayers are with you at this time. And if there's anything I can do, but right now with what you've provided us with all this evidence, firsthand ground, so whatever you can provide, just keep letting us know. And I think
I want to make it known. Olivia's got to make it known. We have not seen UN troops here. All we've seen is these blue hat guys. Who the hell are they?
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah. And Chris is on that. We're investigating it from who is behind supposedly Canada Task Force again. So again, they could be a private corporation. It could be through the military industrial complex. It could be, I'll have ACIO and those intelligence agencies on it, and every contact I have with every 3 to 4 letter agency. So again, we know these are being set up and what kind of operations, and it will be forwarded as well too. So we'll get it through to my intelligence and they'll take a look at it, because even after what's happened in Maui, there is a site you can look up called Real Raw News. And again, it's stuff that is banned, but if people go to Real Raw News, just to give you guys a little bit of hope, they have sent in special detachments for the military right now. And they actually have been apparently making some headway with this. And what they're saying right now is that the Marines have actually arrested over 67 people, just of the perpetrators. And again, whether it's true or not, or what we're hearing from these things, that the military and the Marines have arrested the FEMA deputy administrators like Eric Hooks. And right now they were neutralizing some of the fleeing FEMA convoys. So there's a lot of information coming in. And again, at every different fraction, like I said, we're seeing this here. So, I mean, you're not the only ones, but again, it took some time. But I mean, this was August 24th that just the arrest went in, considering how long it's been since Maui. So I'll be putting into some of these different journalists, agencies like myself, and see what we can do. So anyway, as far as I'm declaring, this is an act of war, treason and high treason upon the nations, and crimes against humanity, and they need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
And almost like a genocide. And it would be lovely if we could get our American family also involved. Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, he should be notified of this. Michael Jaco, who's so intelligent and knows so much too. Some of these people should be also in the loop, because they have the numbers of the people they're following. And we just really need to get this message out, because what the mainstream media is saying is absolute falseness, falsehoods everywhere. They just portraying us completely wrong, and it's really been about all of us helping each other. The government has not been our friend. They have not whatsoever. The establishment is our enemy right now, as far as we're concerned. They did not help us. In fact, they just basically fanned the flames.
Oh, absolutely, like in there. So, we're putting that through. So I just wanted to thank you at this time. I'm going to be running up to do some stuff out of town, but my line is on to you guys. So if you definitely need anything, and I'll forward this as well to Chris Sky and to whatever of our nation's different intelligence agencies we can get things out for and get this looked after. So again, like I said, it's coming forward even into your area where you're seeing these people are traitors. They can be prosecuted for crimes against humanity, but for treason and high treason. And just hold what you can there. And I'll get this out as quick as I can.
Yeah, I can't thank you. And I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. I'm just not a very good writer. I'm sorry. But we just feel like we're being attacked on all sides from all the wrong people. The people we pay their wages to protect us and do the right thing. It's almost like they lost their heart and their mind in this. I don't understand how they can do this to anybody.
Again, as we're hearing, a lot of this is when you get into the ACIO intelligence organizations, the deep underground bases, as you know, these may not be human. I mean, they have basically, part of these cybernetic soldiers, and you're dealing with something that is non-human, and that unfortunately is part of this sometimes.
It makes sense, Karen, honestly, because anybody that could witness this and not pour their heart out and help the way we've been helping each other, I just don't understand that mentality. It is not human. It can't be. Yeah. Because it's just not possible. Mm-hmm. So if something's in people or MK'd, or I don't know if they're piping in some kind of thing into these people, but whatever it is, they are aiding and abetting this whole criminal activity. And they have to be sought out and found, and these people need to be shut down for what they've done.
This is part of the thing too, and I want to quite get into the whole zombie apocalypse, but we do know with the uplink through the Internet of things and the Internet of the bodies that people have been injected with these different things, that basically that's what can be happening, is that the injections can cause the uplink and the takeover of transhumanism and the AI as we see it. So again, it will remain to be seen until it's investigated properly, but I'm putting it forward for being dealt with at an international level. This is definitely an act of war. It needs to be dealt with and prosecuted in there for, like I said, they will be prosecuted, and any agent and referring agent. It's no different than the nurses and doctors that participated in the injections, and doing that type of thing. So just hold fast, see what we can do. And I'm getting this out, so I'm going to upload this now before I get out of town and do the next, 2 days worth of meetings here. But just let me know, and it's going out now, and I'll send it forward. Okay.
We'll chat just after this call is done. I'd like to talk to you about a couple of more things.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you getting this information out for us. It means the world to us, and everybody needs to remember this can happen to you. We didn't think it would ever happen, and it did. Mm-hmm. And you have to really do your thing, your bit in your community to help yourself, get prepared, do whatever you need to do to just make yourself safe, and do have a secondary plan on what you can do to take care of yourself and your family, your pets, etc. Do whatever you can to do that, because it's we never would have thought that they would have let it go this far. It should have been done immediately, day one, with Adams Lake. Should have been done immediately, and they let it go. And from there on, it wiped out everything. It's shocking.
A lot of the stuff too. Like, I mean, when I looked at just West Kelowna and stuff, I mean, I do know some of the trafficking that was involved with the Evergreen containers. This has to do with the child trafficking, like the Sound of Freedom. Is some of the areas like in West Bank and some of those nations, there's overlap and engagements in this, and not saying everyone's involved, but a lot of them were, and a lot of them are being shutting down with the tunnel systems that were going into the schools and stuff too, that we saw like in Paradise, California. So, but I will get it out to that, and we want to thank you so much. And I'm going to end this video here so we can get it uploaded out as quick as we can, and I'll just remain on the line with you if that's okay.
That's perfect. Thank you.
I understand this. There's no way I could ever understand this, but we're taking a stance, and they have to stand down and stand under us. Otherwise, they will be executed for crimes against humanity. It's just that simple. Okay?
Yes, thank you. Thank you to the listeners and viewers, and do your part to get the word out. Please spread this information out, because it's so important that everybody hears it. it's not only here. From what we understand with Spain and worldwide, there's the same sort of situation going on where they're burning a lot of places down.
Yeah.
Why is
I'll put this underneath the people that did the actual videos at Scotch Creek, so we can do it. Now, what I will tell you is I put comments, I know, down there yesterday to let them know that I was watching it. And all my comments were being deleted off Rumble and stuff like that, as well as some of the stuff I was doing with, I'll call him Lair Moses Hugh, which has to do with the clan mothers and the JAG, and presenting the correlation that our Noah's Ark supersedes any foreign or domestic type of, assumption of even anything, but with the loyal title in there. So all of a sudden that's all disappeared, that we did all our taping for like 2 hours again yesterday, but we'll get it out. They can't keep erasing everything that I put out there, So, okay, we'll end the stream here, and thank you very much. And the stream is ended, and